name is Godfather from San Francisco, California. Where are my Northern California motherfuckers at? Dude, this is a fucking big deal because you guys are standing at the fucking ground floor of what's about to be the biggest fucking genre in dance music. It's called Disco House. This is a celebration of life. We live in really dark, kind of crazy times. We need fucking happy music. Do we agree with that? Ladies and gentlemen, it's such a pleasure to be here. You guys are amazing. Once again, I'm Godfather from San Francisco, California. And I made it to Vegas, baby! Let's go!
Let me set the scene. A century ago, Las Vegas was nothing more than a desert railroad stop. But after gambling was legalized in 1931 and the Hoover Dam opened 5 years later, it laid down roots for Las Vegas to become the grand spectacle that it is today. In the 1940s, New York mobster Bugsy Siegel acted on his vision to transform Las Vegas from a collection of dusty gambling halls to a glamorous resort destination. In 1946, the Flamingo Hotel was opened as Las Vegas' first luxury resort, spearheaded by Bugsy himself. He was assassinated 6 months later in Beverly Hills, but he had made his mark, and it would change Las Vegas forever. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the Las Vegas landscape is slowly shifting away from gambling and turning its sights towards live events and experiences. Pair that with America's electronic music boom in the early 2010s, and Las Vegas is now one of the world's premier destinations for fans of dance music. On a busy weekend in mid-October, I set out on a mission to capture a slice of the dance music mecca that Las Vegas has become. On any given night, Vegas is stacked with world-class headliners performing at various venues around the most central parts of the city. The weekend I set out to film was loaded with groundbreaking performances, like Crankdat playing the biggest dubstep show in Las Vegas history, Subtronics playing the final Unity show at the Sphere, and not to mention the usual club headliners like Clooney, Cascade, Fisher, etc. And that's all happening in just one night, which is kind of the norm around here. But none of that is actually what this documentary is about. Instead, I had my sights hyper-focused on one very specific aspect of the scene, a movement that is quickly spreading and bringing people of all ages to congregate on the dance floor. I'm talking about Disco House. This weekend, Disco House will take on the big stage for the first time in Las Vegas history as Dombresky's Disco House side project Disco Dom is set to take over LIV Nightclub at the Fontainebleau Hotel. But leading up to the big night, there will be multiple Disco House events taking place throughout the weekend, and I'll be on a mission to check out each one in order to capture the quickly growing movement that is Disco House. On Saturday night, I headed to Fremont East to catch a set organized by the behind-the-scenes power players of Disco House, the Disco Illuminati. What started as a producer group chat of Disco House enthusiasts has now evolved into a full-blown movement bridging modern high-fidelity production with the nostalgic groove and soul of classic disco. Tonight they'll be throwing a Disco House takeover at Rosa, a Mexican restaurant by day turned dance floor by night.
We do try here to be DJ-driven, dance forward at some point after midnight, and we've built a DJ booth that sort of slyly enters the restaurant design without feeling like you're eating in a nightclub. So when you're here for dinner, you may not even notice that this becomes a nightclub at some point of the night, and we've made it a point to be slick about adding nightlife elements to the room.
I take in the scenery on my walk to the show, and I even walked past the iconic Sphere, which is actually a lot less impressive up close. As I turn the corner, I see Rosa's neon sign, complete with Disco House jams pumping out of the venue, even though doors haven't officially opened yet. This is my first time setting foot in this venue, and something immediately catches my attention. It has a Function 1 sound system, in a restaurant. For those that don't know, Function 1s are arguably the most advanced and precise loudspeakers on the market, with a price tag that matches their intricate engineering. And that's just the price for a used pair. If you want new ones, you'll have to contact Function 1 directly, and it's gonna cost a lot more. So from the jump, I could tell that this place was not playing around, and I guess that's to be expected because this is Las Vegas after all. As the night kicks off, I bounce between the dance floor and a noisy back alley behind the venue to speak to some of the artists on tonight's lineup. One of those artists is Las Vegas native and true disco cowboy Walt J, who will be taking the stage at LIV Nightclub tomorrow night to open for none other than Dombresky's Disco House side project, Disco Dom. As one of the OG members of the Disco Illuminati, I want to pick his brain on his inspirations that led to his journey as a disco house artist. And just a heads up, this was my first time shooting footage for one of my videos, and I had many technical difficulties in a very noisy environment, so I apologize for the subpar audio quality, but you know, it was a learning experience, so hopefully it gets better in future videos.
When I was a small cowpoke, my mother always listened to disco music. Big fan of ABBA and a lot of other great disco and disco genres. And as I progressed through life, I've always found my love for house music to be a big part of my life. So naturally, I blended the two.
I followed this up by asking for his opinion on why the disco house movement is growing so quickly, and he didn't hesitate to give a brutally honest answer.
Disco house is fun. Tech house and techno are boring as fuck. Disco house is a rodeo, baby. Motherfucking rodeo.
Shout out to Walt for that insightful interview that we somehow managed to pull off in a noisy back alley with a little bit of tequila in our system and very limited tech. You'll get to see him in action for his set at LIV Nightclub in just a little bit, but first we're gonna catch up with another Disco Illuminati OG and fellow Las Vegas resident, Dynamic.
So disco house is super important to me. It's the genre that really got me into producing. I really love artists like Daft Punk, Fred Falk, DJ Falcon. Those are really the guys that got me started. But it all came from the beginning, like Cool Benet, Click, all the music from the 70s and the 80s is really what spawned all this music that we listen to today. So you have to listen to the classics as well.
He proceeded to tell me about all the classic disco records that his mom exposed him to as a kid, which is a perfect example of the intergenerational appeal of disco house that we'll explore more throughout this video.
My mom had Kool and the Gang on vinyl, and I would listen to that as a kid, and that slowly progressed into all the other vinyls that she had. Fast forward into modern day, you have artists like Daft Punk and Justice. These artists are really using those eras of music as their foundation. The first artist that I really listened to that was considered disco house was probably DJ Falcon. I found him on MySpace of all places, and I kind of discovered him before I even found out about Daft Punk. And it was really interesting just bridging that connection with that whole world of disco and house.
Next up, we've got Inglewood, who has had an extremely diverse journey through the music industry, which includes a very wild claim to fame, but I'll let him tell you about that.
I started doing like hip hop, sample-based stuff, you know. I'd sample jazz records, stuff like that. Just exploring music, you know. Eventually I got into making beats for Young Gravy. I met him in college. We totally crossed paths like randomly out of nowhere. I sent him a bunch of beats, and that was that. I feel like hip-hop and disco is kind of like very much intertwined together because of the fact that it's so sample-based. It's using something old and refurbishing it to make it like sound good for a modern audience. So I figured, you know, I can sample and add a hip hop beat to a jazz thing. Like, why can't I do the same to an old disco record, chop it up, add house drums to it? And that's kind of like how I started doing the music I do now.
When I asked for a little more backstory specifically about disco house, he told me a story about the night that he realized that classic disco records could be reimagined for a modern dance floor without losing any of the identity of that classic disco soundscape.
And then I remember one night, I used to live in New York, got invited out to a disco house event, this club called Le Bain, which is like a rooftop club, very fucking cool. It was like one of the best nights of my life. It was like all disco house, you know, all these songs I recognized, and like I just didn't know that those songs could be repurposed in that way to be so like disco and groovy. It was such a good party, such good vibes, you know. People from like all different walks of life were there, and that's what made me fall in love with it.
As the night came to a close, I had a few minutes to catch up with Spooky, who was the headliner of the event, and of course, another member of the elite Disco Illuminati. We didn't have very much time because he had to get back to his hotel for some sleep before an early morning flight back to San Francisco. However, he was able to give me a quick rundown on how disco was a predecessor to house music, which led to the two being fused into a totally new genre, which led to the birth of the Spooky Project.
I think that it's a genre that blends a lot of the classic disco sound with a lot of the more modern house music sound. And you get somewhere that's kind of in the middle because house music, as we know, came from disco. Those 4 in the floor beats were all born from that. So that's kind of what it all means to me and how I envision it.
As the last question of the night, I asked him to share some of his personal disco heroes.
Biggest inspirations from me, number one in the disco house world has to be Dave Lee, the legend. I find so much of his music attractive inspiring. I play all of it to this day. And beyond that, I take so much inspiration from a lot of the original disco groups and artists like Donna Summer, Kool and the Gang, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Commodores, and so many more are just huge to me. I'm a big fan of that OG sound. I love playing original tracks in my sets, callbacks and throwbacks to that era. And to me, it was just a beautiful time period and an excellent time period for music and the evolution of music. So shout out to all of them.
After sleeping in late on Sunday morning, I made my way to a house music brunch at 18 Bin in the Arts District in downtown Las Vegas with the goal of further exploring this intergenerational connection. Except this time, it will be from the perspective of someone who was around for the OG disco glory days and is now carrying that torch forward through the disco house movement. Introducing V-Dub. She and I met a few weeks back when Goshfather was playing at Disco Pussy, and her story is truly inspiring. Even though she's an early Gen Xer who has worked in the event space for the last 25 years, she actually just started her own DJ career this year, but the progress that she has made in that short amount of time is unreal. She's constantly on the road for gigs, bouncing between Las Vegas, Orange County, and her hometown of Los Angeles. And on top of all of that, the first track that she ever released got radio play here in Las Vegas on Vibe 99.7. She's a testament to the fact that age limits in the dance music industry only exist if you impose them on yourself. After she finished laying down the grooves, I got the chance to speak with her in order to see the world of disco house through her eyes. I started things off by asking her to tell me about how she became a DJ later in life.
Well, I've been doing events for 25 years, and I've always been the woman with parties. I always had a soundtrack to go along with every single event. I wanted the music to be part of the atmosphere, part of the experience. My friends kept telling me, like, you need to do this. I had 4 or 5 DJ friends that kept saying, do it, do it. So I bought a controller, started practicing, and and here we are. Now that I've found it, it's like, this is all I think about all day long, and I want to bring this music to the rest of the community. I want to share it with the Gen Xers. I want to mash up stuff that's both new and old, that relates to every generation. And, I'm calling this Gen Blur.
The conversation then began to shift away from her current life as a DJ, and she took on a more nostalgic tone as she recalled her earliest memories of disco with bright eyes.
My first experience with disco was Rick D's in the Morning, Kiss FM, and I took my dad's box-shaped Radio Shack radio, and it had rabbit ears and antennas on it, and I stuck it in my window, and I had to move the rabbit ears trying to get reception, and I was listening to this music I'd never heard before. This is the day they're like Led Zeppelin, Peter Frampton, Kiss, Aerosmith. They were all popular. They hated disco, and I liked rock music too, don't get me wrong. There was something so happy and so made you want to, I call it shoulder music, anything that makes you compulsively move your shoulders without trying to. So disco was something that was it was in my soul, definitely something I felt from the very beginning.
As we brought things back to the present day, I asked her to tell me more about what specifically attracted her to disco house.
Oh my gosh, so I only started going to festivals about 7 years ago. And the first thing I listened to on YouTube was Glitterbox, Purple Disco, Dombresky, and the Goshfather. Those are my biggest influences in being a part of this disco house resurgence.
Speaking of Dombresky and Goshfather, that brings me to the final event of the weekend, and a monumental one at that. Tonight at LIV, Disco House will be debuting its first ever appearance in a major Las Vegas club, as Dombresky will take the stage as Disco Dom. When I get to the club, I'm welcomed backstage thanks to Goshfather for hooking me up, and Walt J, who made an appearance earlier in the video, is the first to take over the decks. Tonight is a huge night for Walt as well, as he gets to make his debut in a flagship Las Vegas nightclub after grinding on his DJ career for the last 13 years. Towards the end of his set, he dropped a remix of Natasha Bedingfield's Unwritten that my friend made, and when I asked him about it, he said that he had just found it on SoundCloud that morning. I sent a video of it to my friend who was rightfully stoked, so that was a pretty cool moment to kick off the night. Next up on the decks was the one and only Goshfather, who I've been a fan of since 2016, and he also made an appearance in my 21 Underrated Artists video from earlier this year. I got to see him for the first time at Disco Pussy just a few weeks prior to this, and now getting to see him in action in a major club was an incredible thing to witness. As expected, he completely tore it up on the decks and had the whole club moving. As Goshfather's set concluded, you would think that was the end of the night since he really brought the headliner energy, but it was time for Disco Dom to bring the house down. Disco Dom is arguably the face of disco house right now, as he's been parading the genre at major festivals around the world like Coachella, Electric Forest, and Tomorrowland. He took the stage in true VIP fashion, then proceeded to drop nothing but the grooviest vibes for 2 hours straight. At the end of the night, Walt J and Goshfather had some gifts for him, including a Disco Illuminati t-shirt, a $35 value, absolutely free. But wait, there's more. They threw in a pair of Disco Ball telephone mixing headphones. You would expect Dombresky to pay $200, maybe even $300 for these, but he acted right now and got them absolutely free. Shipping and handling not included. At the very end of the night, as the club was shutting down, I was able to catch up with Goshfather to get his final thoughts on this career-defining performance. Enjoy these dynamic shots as we get kicked out of the club mid-interview.
Unbelievable. Hold on. Can we, really important piece of this puzzle. Walt to the J. Walt to the J stands for Jansport. Oh, fuck. Wait, this man right here, incredible up-and-coming disco house producer. Doing? This is Walt J.
My name is Walt J. How y'all doing?
He's the man that brought all this together. Very grateful for this man. You want to talk about the fact that, like, in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is the last time I was here at LIV, I saw John Summit B2B Dom Dollar, which was packed to the brim, people screaming, that's the hot shit. But you would look at a party like that and go, there's no chance. It was during EDC. You would think that there's no chance that there would be a fucking party here in the same place where John Summit B2B Dumb Dollar, everyone's by mouth, that people are gonna buy bottles at a disco house from open to fucking the last Taylor Swift disco remix that I just played. Oh, sorry. You would never think that that was possible, and it just happened. So if it can happen in Las Vegas, this is like the litmus test. If it can happen in Las Vegas, it can happen in fucking Omaha, Nebraska. You know what I mean? Like, if it can happen here, it can fucking happen in every single market. So that's what's going to happen with Disco House. It's going to keep on getting bigger and bigger. People are going to realize that you can dance. There's different kind of vibes. Not everything has to be one kind of homogenized sound of house music. And we are proving that. We proved it tonight. So many people that came here are going to be like, oh my God, wait. I went to this club randomly. I bought a ticket, or my friend bought a table, or blah, blah, blah. I like the walking. It's going to be like fucking bangers. And they're going to walk away going, wait, I kind of enjoyed that. That was kind of sick. That was kind of different. Look at all this, dude. Look at this shit. This is the confetti and the bottles and the fucking, people left their iPhones and their heels on the floor and shit. That only happens at like big EDM banger shows. Now it happens at disco house fucking shows, dude. If it can happen here, it can happen everywhere. Disco house is a movement. It's happening. And just one last thing, take a look at this motherfucker's jacket. Alfred. Show the jacket. Disco is a weapon. Disco house has like a bad rap of like being like bros in a flowered shirt playing on the fucking beach, drinking like martinis or drinking fucking Mai Tais. Dude, disco house can be heavy. It can be soft. It can be sexy. It can be aggressive. That's what we proved tonight. We had all different kinds of versions of disco house being played in Las Vegas, Nevada at the most fucking biggest club in the city. So there you have it, dude.
Wait, what was the question?
My biggest inspirations. Hold on, give me a second.
Oh, disco has always been around.
in fucking Omaha, Nebraska. You know what I mean? Like,
The bass has groove. The guitars have groove. So disco house to me means everything.